What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So if you're new here, hopefully stick around, consider subscribing. So today is just going to be kind of a quick video showing you guys how to install the standalone ECU SpeedyEFI, Arduino, same but different type company, whatever. Figure that out on your own. So I already got mine. I've had mine for a bit, and I've been trying to figure out how to install it because I've been fabricating my turbo setup for my Miata right here. So after talking with the dudes that own the company or whatever, because I've been under the assumption you have to have all these different sensors hooked up that come with it, and you do and you don't. So let me get started. So coming here right out of the box, you're gonna have your semi-instruction / warning thing, so we'll set that right there. And what all comes in it. This is going to be your cable to connect your computer to your Speedy unit. This right here, this long cable, this is going to be your plug-and-play harness for your GM intake air temp sensor, plugs right into your stock MAF sensor. And then this is the variable TPS little plug-and-play harness. And then here is the actual TPS unit. This is a BMW variable TPS, I believe. And then this is going to be your intake air temp sensor. I think this is an open air unit or something like that. I'm not too sure. I forget what they're called, but yeah, that's your intake air temp sensor nonetheless. And then you have your actual little tiny guy right here, which is your actual Speedy unit. I've heard some great stuff about this. I know a few people that run these ECUs myself, so I'm gonna hopefully get this thing fired up here in just a moment. From what I understand, I don't speak computer lingo, but if I understand it correctly, then this ECU has a base map preloaded on it for whichever one you're doing. So in my case, I'm doing the 9093 Miata plug and play with the 1.6. So this one has a base map for the 1.6 written on the firmware, which I believe is like whatever, like the inside of the computer. And so I'm gonna go ahead. It is straight plug and play, so it uses your factory harness plugged. So I'm going to go ahead, unbolt my current ECU, my stock ECU, and get this plugged in, and then just try and turn the key and fire it right up and see if that works. But before we do that, let's just check out these papers first. And on this top paper, we have a big old stop right here. It says before you plug in your plug and play unit, be sure to remove the ST-SIG fuse from under the hood. And it gives you this fuse diagram right here. So we're going to go under the hood. So going off the fuse box cover and the diagram, it's going to be this little 10 amp fuse right here. So we're just going to pull that one out. Hold on to that, and then we can go ahead and plug in this ECU. So the part that's confusing me right here is on the second sheet where it says do not run the plug and play with the stock TPS connected. Firmware and base tune are preloaded, but when I come to the messages where I was talking back and forth with Speedy, they said yes, it will run without the TPS and without the IAT. Without the IAT, it'll be tunable, but the tune will constantly change. The wideband does not need to be connected, but it's recommended. So I already have the wideband wired in. I just haven't hooked it up yet because I want to get the car running on just the ECU just for the moment, because today I'm going to be hooking up the turbo setup, next video, whatever. But yeah, we're trying to get this just going. So I'm going to go off of what he says, because this may be more of a general instruction for if you're already to this step, you already are trying to tune it and all that stuff. So in this instance, I'm going to just fire this thing up with this. The only thing that we're going to have to do, I believe, is run the vacuum line from here to the throttle body, or right after the throttle body. There's a few ports. Run it to one of these ports that's after the throttle body, so it's actually reading map or whatever, map pressure, manifold pressure, and that'll be it. They do send you some vacuum line too. I just had mine out of the box, but go ahead and run this somewhere through your Firewall. There should be a spot on the passenger side to where you can run this straight up to your manifold and hook it up to the ECU. And the stock ECU location on these cars is going to be on your passenger floorboard back here underneath the carpet. So you're going to have to undo your trim here to move this piece out and pull that carpet back, and you have a plate right here. Well, there's a plastic clip up here. That's the only thing that held that on. And the pop screw there. Right, now we can just pull the carpet back. And here we have our little case. Just a few 10 mils that hold this in place. Alright, there's our stock ECU. And so you're going to have to run some vacuum line through the Firewall. There is a grommet up here. I really can't show you. It's kind of up behind all that plastic stuff, but it's through this grommet right here, if you guys can see that. And I just kind of shoved it in there and reached up there and kind of felt around for it and pulled it through. So pretty easy to do. So with the vacuum line pulled through, I'm gonna plug in the ECU, hook this onto the mat port on the ECU, and we'll try and get this thing fired up just as is. But not before we actually hook up one of our vacuum lines. Almost forgot. There we go. We'll worry about tucking this up later. I'm gonna just end up zip tying it around here, but let's try and fire it up. All right, here we go. SpeedyEFI first start, hopefully. Up. Okay, well, that was the fuel pump. Let's try it. Nothing. All right, well. So maybe I misunderstood what they were saying. So I'm going to try and open up this Tuner Studio, get this stuff sorted out, and see if I can't figure this out. Maybe the ECU has to be connected to this first. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just went on their website, which is just SpeedyEFI.com, went to their blog page and downloaded the bass tune, so that way I have a copy of it for myself. And then now I'm going by their instructions of connecting your SpeedyEFI board to Tuner Studio. So right now I'm installing the Arduino port, so this thing is basically so that way I can figure out which firmware I have on the ECU, and they have directions for this on the Speedy website, so I'm just following those directions right now. I do want to give a big shout out to Monkey Wrenching. He's also a YouTuber out here in Arizona. He's much more north than I am, but he's been walking me through this whole setup as well, and so he's helping me to be able to teach you guys because I have a broader audience, and hopefully I can help you guys. He also has a video on this, but his is more like the software side of it. I'm trying to show you guys all of it from start to finish, but go check him out on YouTube. Link will be in the description. I apologize that you guys can't actually see the screen. So this is the instruction screen for figuring out your firmware. So it says download and install and open Arduino software, and so that's what I just did. I downloaded and installed it, so we're going to go ahead and open it. I have a shortcut here on the desktop. Let that load up. So now it wants us to go to tools, change COM port. So COM 3 is what mine is. Yours may be different. Okay. Alright, so then now step 3 says in the tools drop down menu, open the serial monitor. You'll see a blank bar across the top with the send button. Type a capital S and click send. In the lower box you should see it display something to the effect of Arduino, and then 2 numbers followed by 4 numbers. The first 2 are the month code and the last 2 are the year. So we're going to try that really quick. So open up Arduino, tools, serial monitor. So come up here to the top left, type a capital S, and then the send button is right down here. Hit send. Okay, so nothing shows up, and it says that if it does that, to change the BAUD rate in the bottom right hand corner to a 115-200. So we're going to try that now. So go up here, COM 3, middle selection there, 115-200, come back up here, capital S, hit send. Alright, so mine is 2019.03. That's my firmware version. Now that we have our firmware version, I'm going to go ahead and just minimize that, and then we're going to go and open up the Tuner Studio software. So I think I can just keep that minimized. You have to download and install Tuner Studio. So again, shout out to Monkey Wrenching, because he actually hooked it up and lent me his Ultra account, so I have access to everything. and I just can't thank him enough for that. So seriously guys, go check him out. Alright, so now that Tuner Studio is open, I had to update it. I'm going to go over here to File, Create New Project, Project Name, I'll do just Chris Miata. And then the firmware, I'm going to go to Other and Browse. I had to actually take the speedyEFI file and actually drag it out of the folder to the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. We're going to open that. So now it just wants us to keep clicking next. Leave everything default. So this is all configuration settings, communication settings, dashboard. So yeah, we're just going to leave this all default. Just hit finish. Okay, now we're on this screen. Alright, now that we're at the gray screen, let's go ahead and give the car some power. Turn the key forward. We're going to go up to communications, hit settings, and then we're going to go to COM port, make sure it's selected the right one, so mine's COM 3. And then don't hit anything else, they tell you to just hit accept. Alright, so if you don't see the things come across the screen and your gauges come to life, then just unplug and replug in your USB port. That's what I just had to do. It just, for whatever reason, didn't find it. And now we are live on the Tuner Studio. So I guess now that this is, working, let's try and start it up now. Maybe it'll fire up now. Nope. Okay, we got to do something else then. So I totally forgot a important step for doing this without the other sensors hooked up with your stock sensors. So it says stock sensors can use preset calibrations within Tuner Studio. The following values should be used if you have the stock sensors. So the hard part for me was finding where to do this because I am not computer savvy in the slightest. So finally got it figured out. I've been texting back and forth with the SpeedyEFI guys, and thankfully, I'm sure they get a lot of dumb questions, so thankfully that they're able to put up with somebody like me. So you're going to come up here to Tools. So to get to those settings, you're going to come up here to Tools, go to Calibrate Temperature Sensors, and then you're going to have a sensor table. That's your first option. And then you choose which sensor you're messing with right now. So coolant temp sensor, common sensor value. So we're going to go and we're going to do the RX7 underscore CLT S4 and S5 because that's what the sheet tells us to do. And then you're going to click on that. And then you're going to change it to Fahrenheit for me because I'm an American, and write to controller. And let it do its thing, and once it's done, we'll change the intake air temp. Okay, it says write complete. So now we're going to come up here again, coolant temp sensor, so air temp sensor, and then I already have mine selected, so RX7 AFM. So just find that one, keep it, do whatever, and then write it to controller again. And then that's going to be it for you. And so once that's all done, then your gauges here should be alive, not all red. Alright, well, should be good now. I do still have the stock TPS and everything plugged in, so this is where the thing is conflicting to me because this says do not run the plug and play with the stock TPS connected. So I'm not too sure what that means because when I was messaging them, they said I can use the stock TPS and the stock sensors and all that, which is why you choose the RX7 AFM in the stock inlet air sensor. So I'm gonna just try and fire it up and we'll see what happens. Alright, here we go. Nothing. Alright then. Well, looks like we're gonna hook up that variable TPS after all. Because maybe that's why it's not letting it fire up. It's not getting any sort of throttle signal. Since it's not going to be starting right now, I'm going to go ahead and just do what the paper says. Even though the message that they sent me says it can run on the stock TPS, I may as well just convert it to that variable TPS. So I'm going to have to get this airbox section off here because you do have to pull the throttle body off unless you feel like kind of breaking this apart a little bit, which I don't. So I'm going to just pull the throttle body off and unbolt it that way. Pretty simple. Okay, with the throttle body just out of the way now, I'm going to go ahead and just unbolt it. It's, I don't know, these are probably 6 mils, but they have Phillips head attachments on them. But I'm going to play it safe, go grab my small ratchet, get this off. It's actually a 7 mil. Okay, there you go, it just slides off. It's really tight on there, so just be careful not to break it. So it's hard to see because of the camera, but this is keyed, so just make sure you get the key on there the right way so that way it works accordingly. I mean, it really should only go on the one way, but just be careful. Okay, the new sensor is on. I put a little bit of blue Loctite on the ends of the threads because this is a little bit thicker than the stock piece here, so just to be safe, I didn't want them vibrating out. You don't need to crank them down. It is plastic, it's not metal like this. So just snug them up, put a little blue Loctite on it if you're worried about it backing out or something, and we can go ahead and bolt this all back up. Bit of a tight fit, but it's in there. I had to shove the harness back and down and angle this all the way this way and stuff the harness down there. So let's go get the TPS calibrated. Alright, so with new TPS on, let's give the car some power, plug in our ECU. Okay, it is online. Alright, throttle position sensor is working, it is just way off. So we're going to go up here to Tools, Calibrate TPS, and then the top box here is closed throttle ADC count, so we're going to just hit Get Current. Okay. And then full throttle and get current. And we're just gonna hit accept. Alright, so you guys probably can't see it that well. Alright, so that's closed throttle and that's wide open throttle. So it's doing exactly what we want it to do. So let's try and fire this thing up one more time. Oof, almost. So it's still not wanting to fire up. I'm dealing with the customer service right now, or customer support, and I'm also talking to Monkey Wrenching, and they're trying to help me diagnose this. So one of the main things that they told me to look for so far is power to the room fuse, because the room fuse controls the radio, your door buzzer, and all that stuff in your ECU memory. Mine is working. My fuse is good, and then they told me to check for voltage at the red, white, and blue, white wire on the ECU main plug. Which is the smaller square one, and both are receiving 12 volts. So if you're having an issue like mine, check that first, check for the voltage at those wires. I have the 12 volts, and I'm pretty sure it's the main relay that I hear clicking under the dash when I turn the key forward, and it sounds like the pump primes and everything, but it's just like not wanting to spark. So I'm gonna try and get this figured out, and I will tell you guys once I get this done. So now I've been told to check for the voltage at the TPS sensor at the plug to it. I am getting the 5 volts there, and I did just check for spark. Just to check for that. So now he's asking if the map is calibrated to MPX 4250, so let me check. So I just pulled up, I went under Tools, Calibrate Pressure Sensors, and under the map sensor, mine is actually showing MPX 4115. So I'm going to go ahead and change that really quick to MPX, let's see what he said, 4250, MPX 4250. So let's hit that, and let's, I would assume hit burn, let it do its thing. Alright, I just changed that, cycled the power on and off, so let's try it now. Ignore that belt, gotta tighten that. Really sorry about that squealing. Like I said, I just got the AC working this morning, so apparently I didn't tension the belt enough, but that was it. That was my fix. So I had to go into Tools, go to my pressure sensor settings, and change it from MPX 4115, which is what mine was defaulted at for some reason, and set it to the MPX 4250. Alright, sounds like it's running pretty good. There we have it, guys. Got the car running on the SpeedyEFI. The throttle is a bit high, or I'm sorry, the idle is a bit high, and the throttle seems a bit delayed. So I'm assuming that really means that you're supposed to be running a wideband, because right now the car is running in, I would assume open loop, I think that's the term, but correct me if I'm wrong. But either way, the car isn't getting the correct ratios because it's a standalone. Yes, it has a map, so I don't really know how all that works, honestly. I'm terrible with computers. I'm not a tuner in the slightest, so don't take me for any of that. So I'm assuming that my idle is kind of wonky right now, high and you know, just running really rich right now, because if I kind of give it some gas, it feels like it's trying to bog out a bit, but then the idle goes up finally like it's delayed, and then it shoots a big backfire. So I'm assuming it's just either I need to adjust the idle stuff a little bit, which I'm sure monkey wrenching can walk me through, and if not, I mean, I plan on bolting the turbo up and then taking it straight to the dyno as soon as I can. So let me show you really quick how you're gonna have to do your intake air temp stuff. Assuming that's all good, and that's all you're going to be doing, or if you're going to be boosting and supercharging, whatever your situation, then you're going to have to hook up your intake air temp sensor. So what I did is, like I said, this is plug and play. This plugs right into your MAF sensor. You may have to extend these wires depending on where you're running your fitting to. I chose to run mine a little bit after the intercooler, so it's getting more accurate air. And this is my fitting bung right here. So this comes right off the throttle body. It sits up here like this. And then this piece right here goes under the frame rail. So this is for my idle air control valve port I welded on. This is for my intake air temp sensor, obviously. So that's pretty much all you gotta do. You gotta thread that in, or make your own tap or something. You can go to Home Depot, get a 3/8 MPT tap, which is what this is if you're running the GM sensor, and then just plug it all in, plug that into your stock AFM adapter, and you know, just hook up your sensor wherever you need it to be. And once that sensor is hooked up and your wideband is hooked up, for me, I added a sensor wire or a connector right here. So this right here goes down to my AEM wideband. This just goes down through the firewall here. This goes in my fuse box. The gauge is all wired up and powered and everything. I don't have the sensor hooked in at the moment, but once I do, I plug this in to my stock sensor port right here, which is my narrowband is hooked up at the moment. But once I'm ready for the wideband, I just unplug my narrowband, hook up the wideband, and then that should be good from there. So once you got all your sensors hooked up and everything, all you have to do, the wideband should automatically kind of do its own thing. I think, I'm not sure, for me running an AEM, I might have to input my values based on voltage and stuff. I don't know if the computer will regulate that. So I'll have to figure that out on my own. But other than that, for the intake air temp sensor and all that, you just go back into your tools, you go to your temperature settings, and then you put the corresponding GM one. So that should be pretty simple for you by now. But that's pretty much it. So this did take a lot longer than I anticipated because I did run into these issues, but it fired up, it is running now. If you don't plan on boosting it, you're still probably gonna wanna hook up that variable TPS, because I feel like without it, this probably wouldn't have been working too well. And you're still gonna want a wideband, because that might be my issue. Don't quote me on that. If yours is idling like mine, I really don't know how to help you from that point. You still might have to get a hold of their customer support, and their customer support has been pretty good so far for me. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you found it useful, please be sure to let me know in the comments below and leave a like on the video. Again, if you're new to the channel, hopefully you've considered subscribing. Now that this is all running, I can start hooking up my turbo stuff. So do what you love, forget about the rest. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.